So let's get started. Hi, everyone, and good evening. Very welcome to this second lecture about the past pawns from a middle game perspective, I would say. But actually, I put an end game position here just as a warm up. So, 2 minutes, send me white's best move, please. 2 minutes to go. Please send me white's best move. If you like, you can also attach a plan. Yeah, don't forget, please, that this pawn goes this way and this pawn goes that way. So 2 minutes, send me white's best move, and what is the plan? Okay, time's up. This was a tricky one. Let's listen to Hua Chen. Hua, please share with us. What should white play here?
Actually, it's Ryo, but I joined with the wrong name.
Oh, it's Ryo. Okay. Well, nice to see you, Ryo. No issues. What to play here?
A nice c3 because it both blockades the pawn and also defends our pass pawn in case some trouble happens with it.
Uh-huh.
And then now the king is a bit, it's both good and kind of stuck there. So I'm probably going to play king f5, king e4, and then reroute it to attack the pawn.
Aha. I mean, that's 100% correct. But still, I'm a bit curious, Ryo. What happens with his other moves here? Why can't we play king f5 immediately? Isn't it the same thing? Just bring over the king.
I think knight e7 check and then...
Knight e7. But knight takes?
c3.
Exactly. Some people here miss that black is not forced to take on e7. Then white would win because of the outside passer. But just like Ryo says, black wouldn't take the knight. This is how the game went. Black played c3. And white is extremely unlucky that he cannot bring the knight towards the pawn. He's extremely lucky that the pawn is on f7, else he could play knight g6, e5, d3, right? So this is how the game went. A strong grandmaster missed here the point in this position. He played here knight g6, and he just resigned at this moment. So Ryo is completely correct here. It is not so easy to see, let's say you're in time trouble, not so easy to make up your mind here. We have three candidate moves. We have king f5, we have f5, and we have knight c3. But only knight c3 is good here. f5, I guess it's okay for a draw. But just like Ryo said, white king is both good and bad on f6. It would be better to have it closer to the dangerous c pawn. So f5, I think black would just play king g8 here, preventing king g7. And after white plays, I mean, he must move his knight now, right? So let's say knight c3, the king will just go back. And I'm not convinced that white can make progress here. So definitely, the right move here is knight c3. And then bring the king closer to the c4 pawn. White should be winning without much trouble here. Let's say king g8. I mean, if I go the other way, white's king is going to go to g7, right? Now, about passed pawns, here would a new passed pawn will appear. So king g8, and now, just like Ryo said, the white king would just approach the pawn, and white should win without much difficulties. That's what I analyzed, at least, something like this. What is the bottom line here? That we should be very careful about the opponent's passed pawn. We might think initially that white is much better here thanks to his outside passed pawn, but we shouldn't subestimate this passed pawn. That's what happened in the game. Huge accident. White played king f5, and he was completely lost after knight e7. Also notice that, of course, the white king doesn't enter the square, so to speak. Black wins. Okay, let's continue. That's our little warm-up. Always careful about enemy passed pawns. Now, let's have a look at something else. As you can see in this position, there are no passed pawns so far on the board. So it's not clear what this has to do with our subject, right? Let's see what happened in this game. It's black to play. As you can see, this bishop is being threatened. We have to do something about this bishop. Probably what black should play here is just to take on e3. This is some kind of Najdorf structure, I think. Bishop takes e3. Can you flip the board? Yeah, but we're going to flip it again very soon. So, as you like. Okay, I'll flip. So we should probably play bishop takes e3, rook takes, and something like queen c7, so that we can bring the rook to d8, protect the pawn on d6, and so on. I think this would be roughly level this typical Sicilian Najdorf structure. However, in the game, black found another idea. He played here bishop e6, targeting the rook on a2. White played b3. And again, I think it made sense here to play bishop takes e3. After rook takes e3, we could play queen c7. No issues with bishop takes a6. I'm sure you noticed that now the pawn is no longer protected, but no problem for black here. He can play something like rook a8. And, well, if white goes back with the bishop, yeah, we can just pick up the pawn on a5, I guess. Black should have enough counterplay here, even if he's a pawn down. It looks okay for black, I think. However, the game didn't go that way. What about this chatting in the messages in the chat? Maybe we can leave that for another occasion, Ryo. Can we focus on the lesson, please? So b3 was played in the game, and instead of taking on e3, black played bishop c3. Now I'm going to flip again. So what do you think happened here? I will give you just 1 minute. Send me what you think is white's best move, please. If you can write a little idea with your move, even better. So white's best choice and related idea. Okay, a lot of people got it right. I think I made it very easy, but never mind. Aradia, please share with us. What should white play here?
Yeah, so my idea was to go like bishop take a6 because we're stacking the exchange because I would say the rook on e1 is much worse than the bishop on c3. And then I was thinking to go after bishop take e1 I thought he would play. Because or I saw he had rook a8, but I was thinking bishop b7 should be good enough.
But maybe if bishop e7 I can take the pawn on a5, don't you think?
Yeah, then I'll
So maybe there is a better move here for white. Don't you think?
At that bishop d5, I forgot my rook is hanging up.
You can also protect the pawn here.
Bishop b6.
Yeah, that's a much better choice, right? And then you can just go back with the bishop. So this is a nice idea, by the way. Bishop and pawn, they protect each other in some positions. So you're completely right. Bishop takes a6. That's what happened in the game. It's very easy once you see it, no? But maybe during the game it was not so clear for the players. So thanks, Radia. Great work. Black took on e1, white took back, and here queen c7 was played. What do you think white played here? And anyone? You don't have to. I mean, you can just send me the move quickly. What do you think white should play here? Should we play perhaps bishop e6? The same idea of protecting the pawn? No, I got the answer no. Everybody understand bishop e6 mistake. Exactly. Zoe says bishop e6 allows rook takes b6. Exactly. So this should definitely be avoided. And again, white has no advantage. So in the game, white played in a very silent way bishop d3. The bishop should simply go back. And it's important to understand what Aradia was saying, that the bishop on c3 was extremely strong, not so the rook on e1. So it's even hard to say that white has sacrificed anything here. I think he hasn't sacrificed anything because also this pawn is not worth 1 point. It's worth much more because also now, once the bishop retreats, the pawn is ready to run forward. So this position is very difficult for black already. But I like very much this example. You will soon see why. Okay. Also, the b4 pawn is very weak, says Alexander. Yeah, you're right, Alex. That's a weakness in black's camp. And also black has no counterplay here almost. So in the game, black played d5, which makes a lot of sense. Trying to create some open d-file opportunities in order to make his rooks a little more valuable. However, in this case, white, in the usual Sicilian, white would probably take on d5. But here, he has no reason to do that. One reason is that, obviously, in this case, the bishop would be controlling the important a8 square. So in the game, white simply continued with his plan. He played here a6. And you know this old saying, we talked about this last time. The passed pawns should advance, right? Passed pawns should advance. I think it was about endgames, but still, it applies also in the middle game. The further it gets, the better. Black played here rook bd8, giving up the pawn on b4, but, the rook had to move anyway because the pawn was about to reach a7. And here white didn't complicate things. He played simply a7. Already now, as you can see, black must be extremely careful. Taking on e4 is now out of the question, right? Because then I think there is no way in which he can prevent a8. So in the game, black played d4. Here, white played bishop h6. And this is important to understand. Black played at this point rook f e8. And now I want you to send me white's best move here. What should white play at this moment? Which would be the best idea for white? I won't give you any hints. Just think about this position, which would be the best plan for white. So 2 minutes, white's best move and related plan, please. Okay, time's up. We had many different ideas here. Some people wanted to play queen a1, which I think is reasonable as well, in order to keep track of this pawn and let's say play a8 at some moment if possible. I guess I would have to play rook a8 anyway, right? And okay, careful that I have a concrete plan here in order to remove that pawn from the board. But still, it's an interesting option. Queen takes b4 is definitely a candidate move here. White didn't play this in the game. I'm not completely sure why, but well, who knows? Maybe for the same reason that he thought that black might be able to eliminate that pawn, maybe. I mean, let's say we play queen a5, perhaps he can take and play rook e7. I know this pawn will fall off, but also once black takes the a7 pawn, in a way, life becomes easier, right? There is a much better choice. And the reason why I like this example, apart from the fact that white sacrifices in order to obtain a strong pass pawn, is that it shows us another important strategy when we have the passed pawn. And I will not say anymore. Let's listen to Ashish Panda. Ashish, please share with us. What should white play here?
I said f4 to play queen h4 to f6.
Exactly. And I think when you suggested this idea, Ashish, you noticed something about black's pieces, right? If I take and you play queen h4 and I play queen e7, what would happen? Very simple.
I can take and play a queen.
Exactly. So this is what I wanted to show you in the first place, everybody. Please notice, once we have a passed pawn and our opponent is able to control that passed pawn, it might be a good idea to think about the kingside attack, to attack the opponent's king, because in that way, it will be very difficult for him, both to defend his king and defend against the passed pawn. Okay, Brian Tay says bishop. Yeah, you're right, Brian. You can also play, like you say, bishop g5. Yeah, you're certainly right. So this was kind of example that the black queen or the black rook, we can say, it's not able to defend the king and at the same time defend against the advance of the passed pawn. So f4 is exactly what happened in the game. Thanks, Ashish. That's what happened in the game. So black had to play here queen e7, trying to prevent Ashish's plan with queen h4. And white simply took on e5. As you can see, now black is very weak on the dark squares. He tried in the game bishop d7. In this way, he gets ready to play bishop c6. We talked about this in order to control the pawn in a better way. And also he's threatening to take the pawn on e5. However, white now has a lot of counterplay on the king side, a lot of activity. He played here first rook a5. Nice technical move. No reason to give away the pawn on e5, right? Bishop c6 and queen f2. Already at this point, I would say that the position is rather hopeless for black because he has no counterplay whatsoever. The pawn, it's not possible to liquidate it anymore. If rook a8, I guess white could just take the pawn on d4 in the worst case. So very difficult position for black. He played here rook d7. Yeah. So what do you think white would play here? Anyone? Just write in the chat, please. What to play with white? How to step up the pressure here? I mean, black is probably about to take the pawn on a7. So maybe it's time to create some additional threat. Aha, we have several ideas here. Bishop b5. Some people are saying bishop b5. Yeah, I understand the idea in order to play a8, right? This must be the idea. Are we winning after this, or is black able to defend? Let me know if I'm missing something here. Might black still have chances to survive? Maybe, right? Maybe. Some people are saying e6. That's an interesting move. That's definitely an interesting move. It's a kind of move which changes the logics of the game. What happens here? Let me know if I'm missing any tactics. I cannot take the pawn, right? If I take the pawn, you will take and you will play bishop c4 and I'm lost, right? This looks... Or please, anyone who is calculating faster than me, let me know what's happening here. Queen takes e4. Perhaps white could even play rook takes a7? Or this is just getting very complex. Looks nasty for black, doesn't it? So I guess e6 is also an interesting move. Anyway, what happens if I take with a pawn then? What was the idea? Sorry, here I mean, if I take with a pawn like this. Who said e6, by the way? Somebody said e6. Now you have to answer. What was the idea? I did. Yeah, okay, you're right. Please let us know how to continue the attack then. I think e6 is an interesting idea, but maybe not at this moment. So let's go back to the game. You have to let me unmute. Okay, you're right. We will unmute you and you can share with us. Okay. e6, I take on e6.
Yeah, I was like planning the same thing with bishop b5. Just after e6, I was gonna do it now.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't think about this idea. So if I take on b5, you're gonna queen.
Yeah.
And I take, and you take, and I play rook d8.
And then here.
It seems to me I'm alive here. Oh, sorry, what would you play?
No.
I think maybe black can survive here, as far as I can see. I understand your idea, somehow get to g7 with the queen and so on, but...
yeah, I was thinking something like queen d4 for a while, but I realized...
Aha, but the queen, it seems it's covering the g7 square.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a very interesting idea to play e6. It's a typical move. Let me tell you that it was played very soon in the game. So in a way, you were right. Okay, thanks, you're right. Very interesting idea. Bishop e5, some people were saying. E6, pawn takes, and bishop c4, says Arnav. That looks very interesting to me as well. Some tactics should appear here in some way. I don't know. What's the idea here? If I take on... I guess if I take... let me just say if I understand Arnav's idea. I think Arnav wants to play bishop takes e6 here, right? This would be the idea, so that the rook is now overloaded, right? So I cannot play like that. Can I play something else? Rook a8, maybe? So as to... But then you might play rook e5, right? This looks nice. Now the pawn is very weak on e6. Yeah, this looks terrible for black. So I think you're right. Yeah, interesting idea. Let's see what happened in the game. In the game, white played bishop c4 immediately. But it's basically, it comes down to the same idea. He wants to go e6. I think it's a very nice picture. So many white pieces in the attack now. And at the same time, like I was saying, white also has the idea of playing a8 at some moment. Very difficult for black to survive. And black played here rook a8, and now we have here Juvrai's move, e6. That's how the game went. Pawn takes e6. I guess he could have played rook e5 in the game, but there was a queen move instead. Which queen move do you think white played here? Anyone? What to do with that queen? Why did he play e6? He made a favor to his queen, didn't he? Yeah, Alexander says queen f4. Exactly. That's how the game went. So now we can see what's going on here. The queen wants to go to e5. Maybe, just maybe, there might be some idea of queen b8. So many things for black to think about here. And you can imagine in time travel as well. We're at move 34 here. Very difficult for black. He played d3 here, creating some counter chances. For some reason, maybe there might be some threat against the white king. However, it didn't really work. So somebody already showed the idea here. What did white play here? white to play in win? Anyone? We already saw this idea about the overloaded piece. Okay, Yuvrai found it. Exactly. So he says, rook take. But if you take Zoe on a7, I will take with check. So I guess that was black's idea. And who knows what will happen here. If I'm able to give check, maybe I'm able to swap your queen, and then I might not lose. Exactly, Zoe. So we must play bishop takes c6 first. That's right. And that's how the game went. Bishop takes, black must take, yeah, because else he's simply mated here, right? So queen takes and rook takes a7. Black resigned because he cannot take on a7 due to mate in 1, and there is no other good move either, right? It's hard to find a move for black. I guess the simplest idea here is simply to take and play queen b8. Even some mating ideas, queen f8. Okay, so that's what this example was about. If we go back to the beginning, we had this position, black to play. Black probably should have taken on e3 and put his queen on c7, and yeah, normal play. In the game, however, he saw that he might be able to, to annoy white's rooks here with bishop c3. But just like we heard here, this bishop might actually be stronger than this rook. And if we can get a passed pawn on the a file, that's very good news for white. So that's how the game went. Bishop takes, queen takes, and as we could see here, the pawn was extremely strong. But not only that, maybe white cannot win just thanks to that pawn. He should also, create a second weakness, as they say in the endgame. But this idea can also be applied to middle game strategy. Arnav says f3 and queen takes f2 was also an option. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Or queen takes b4 was also an option here. This cannot be bad. But I like very much the way white played here. f4, he's simply preparing an attack against the black king. It will be almost impossible for black to defend against white's attack and at the same time defend against the white passed pawn. So that's the bottom line here. When you have a strong passed pawn, let's see if you can also start a kingside attack. Okay, and here is another example on the same topic. This example brings me bad memories because I'm on the losing side in this game. I'm playing with black here. 2 minutes, send me white's best move, please. White's best move. Okay, time's up. We had several different ideas here. Some people wanted to play queen d5, which is a nice centralizing move. I'm not sure what I will play with black. I can see that the threat now is knight f7 check. So I guess I will have to play rook d8 here. I don't know if I can still hold. As you can see, white has a passed pawn. The pawn on e5 is definitely passed pawn. Also, black has a passed pawn. But somehow white's passed pawn looks more powerful, combined with a very strong knight on d6. But black has managed to block the passed pawn with a strong knight on e6. Other people wanted to play queen c6. I think it's also an interesting move. I guess maybe black should take and then play f4. Don't know exactly what would happen here. Maybe I can take this pawn, no? Maybe. Not 100% clear what's going on here. But there is a much better move. And several of you guys found this move. I think Austin was the fastest one. So Austin, please share with us. Which move do you like for white?
I like rook takes d4.
Why is that?
Because his knight on e6 is his best piece.
Correct. And I take, and what do you think about this position? Do you think white is clearly better?
I wouldn't say clearly, I would say slightly, but it's still better.
You're right. I can tell you that actually the computer doesn't give white any advantage here. And I think that's important now that nowadays the engines are so important for us. We should know that some positions, although the engine says equality for humans, the position can be very unpleasant. And that's what happened to me because I played on the black side in this game. And I remember, this was many years ago, but I still remember that it was extremely unpleasant to play with black. So maybe the computer can find all the correct moves and can keep the balance. But, I'm a human. It's not so easy. So Austin is completely right. This knight was very strong. The knight on e6 was a very strong blockading knight. So it's not even perhaps correct to say that white sacrificed here. He simply traded his rook for knight, strong knight, and the pawn. So I would say, at least in practice, white is better here. And still, the position remains very complex. One question for everybody: if black takes on d6, should we take with a pawn or should we take with a queen? What do you think? Pawn. Everybody wants to take with a pawn. Okay, let's listen to Sarvagna. Sarvagna, you want to take with a pawn. What do you think will happen then after, let's say, pawn takes d6, rook ac8? What would you play with white here, Sarvagna? Which move do you like for white?
I
can give you a hint. When you're like changed down, usually we shouldn't swap the remaining rook. Usually it makes sense to keep the remaining rook. So having said that, we should play rook e1. So the idea is obvious. We're of course planning to go rook e7. Black won't allow that. So black will play here, let's say, rook fe8. And just like I was saying, we shouldn't swap pieces. So what would you play now?
Bishop e5.
Exactly. Now we should play bishop e5. And as everybody can see here, black has two rooks, but actually one of them is not doing very much. I mean, that the other rook isn't doing. So he would be very much favored by the exchange of rooks, but that won't happen. And what do you think is white's plan here, Sir Wagner? Let's say I play something like king g8, unpinning the pawn on g7. How do you think white can step up their attack here?
I'm thinking about h5, h6, and then rook e3.
Yeah, that's a nice plan. h5 and h6. And then if I play g6 somehow, if you're able to, switch positions here, bishop and queen, you might be mating. I think that's a nice move. But I think there is another idea also. If you like, you can bring another piece to the attack here.
Rook e3.
Exactly. I think rook e3 is a very strong move. And then we're going to play rook g3, attacking the pawn on g7. And to be honest, I don't think that black can survive here. I think it's very difficult. But it's important for everybody to understand that in the event of bishop takes d6, it's better to take with a pawn, because in that way we can go for an attack. And that's exactly what we saw in the previous example. I mean, what we saw here in the previous example was that, let me just repeat this in case it wasn't clear. White started an attack. White went for an attack. So here we have exactly the same thinking. White, again, has the passed pawn, but in order to put more pressure on black, they're interested in attacking the king. And that can be done, just like Sir Wagner says, with rook e1 and bishop e5, and later on bring the rook to g3. Okay, thanks, Sir Wagner. Excellent work. Let's see what happened in the game. I didn't take on d6. I played queen e6 instead. And here I think everybody knows what white played. Most people can imagine what white played here. I mean, I think I also played queen e6 because I didn't like the looks of queen d5, the idea that we discussed previously. Aradia already spotted here white's next move. Yeah, you could play rook c6, I guess. Yeah, rook c6 looks interesting as well. Why didn't he play that? Good question. I don't know, honestly. It looks nice. But in the game they played, Alexander found another move. So please share with us, Alex, what do you think white should play here instead of rook c6?
I would go one square further and play rook c7.
Nice move, right? Rook c7, black cannot swap it in any way. Impossible to go rook c8. How on earth should we get rid of that rook? Okay, Alex, I play here bishop d8. What do you do with your rook?
Probably rook b7 to keep it on the second.
You're right. We just stay there with the rook. Extremely annoying position. Extremely annoying for black. And let me tell you, Alex, what do you think is white's plan here? I mean, eventually you have to do something. The position is very nice, but what do you think would be his plan here in general terms? If you could play 3 consecutive moves, what would you play?
Probably h5, bishop f4, h6.
Yeah, exactly. So we will go for an attack here. I could even think about perhaps moving the queen to the g file. It would be interesting as well. But I think this is important to understand. White is not really able to unblock the passed pawn here. It's not so easy for him to do that. I mean, he could play a move like queen c4, but it's not clear that he would like to swap queens because, like we were saying, black's king might be a target as well. So you're completely right. I played in the game f4. I tried to create some activity. White took here, and now you can't use your h-pawn anymore, Alex. Okay, Alex left. Never mind. But now White has a strong plan here. He played in the game queen e3. So, as you can see, the queen gets ready for attacking the black king. One idea here for White might be to play bishop g5. If the bishop takes, queen takes, there would be very strong pressure towards the pawn on d7. So in the game, I played bishop e7, and my opponent played queen g3. And here I made a losing mistake. This is not an easy position for black, but we better get used to defending. Sometimes we might end up in positions like this. So I will give you here two choices. Your choices are g6 and h6. You have to choose one of these moves. One of them is okay and the other move is bad. Please let me know which one is the okay one and which one is the bad one. Okay? Between h6 and g6, which one is bad and which one is good? Okay, time's up. I think this was a bit confusing. We have almost like 50-50 here. Some people prefer g6 and others prefer to play h6 here. Let's see how... Let's see, Aradia, share with us your conclusion. Which one is the good one and which one is the bad one, Aradia?
Yeah, so I thought h6 is a good one because it stops bishop g5, which trades off one of our our blockaders. And yeah, so also g6, like bishop h6 is a move. And that's also bishop g5 would be probably even better.
Yeah, I think so. That's how the game went, Aradia. That's how the game went. I played g6 in the game. I made a very bad mistake here. I was in time travel. I simply thought that, well, at some moment there might be some mating idea, so I better avoid it by playing g6. But this was a dreadful mistake because even king g8 was possible here. I could just wait, and I might still have a chance to save myself here. If White plays bishop g5, I can take on d6, and here I can play a move like queen d5. Why would I play queen d5? Well, I can try to find a perpetual. That would be a good result for me, definitely, in this game. So almost any move was okay here, except for g6. I could even play something like rook d8 here. This is another technique that you should consider. We might give up a pawn in order to remove that terrible rook from the 7th rank. Sorry, from the 7th rank. So almost anything here, except for what I played in the game, g6. By the way, I told you rook a8 in order to play rook d7. When I was looking at this game, I also checked the move rook fd8. Let's say if we are materialistic, we don't want to lose the pawn on a7, we could play rook fd8. But White has a very surprising move here. The computer found I would say, fantastic move here. You know what the engine says here? What should White play? Yeah, this is a difficult one. It goes against human logics. But the engine says that White could play here queen h3. Funny, right? Now he's swapping queens. But it turns out that in this position, even if White is exchanged down, Black is not able to hold this really. If he now takes, White will take, and as you can see, it's terrible for Black to play this position. Terrible. To complete White dominance here, the pawn will reach d7. There will be ideas with bishop d5. Also, we have bishop e5 attacking the pawn on g7. So I think this was a bit funny that actually White can even consider to swap queens. Yeah, of course, this has to do with the fact that now also knight f7 is an idea in the position. Anyway, like Aradia was saying, h6 would let Black defend here. White has no real concrete threat here. Yeah, I'm not completely sure. I think this is the best plan for white, and try to play f4, f5. Maybe this is what white should play. And one idea for black here might be to just try to give back the material. One idea that I looked at was to play rook fb8, forcing the rook to c7. Why do we do that? Well, because the rook and the queen are on the same diagonal. What does that have to do with this? Well, we can here play rook d8. And as you can see, there might be some idea of sacrificing in order to equalize the position. So I think this is what black should have played. And if f4, white is threatening to play f5, but we're just in time here to take on d6. And black should be okay here. Again, we have this idea with the queen check on. So Arjan says rook takes d6 is the key. Yeah, I think so. But this is not so easy to see during a game. Believe me, this is not so easy to understand all these details. But I think if you want to take something with you from this example, is the idea of giving back material. So if we're able to somehow make a counter sacrifice on d6, that would be good news for black. But we can't do it now. We have to wait for white to move away the bishop from this diagonal. So that's why I'm saying bishop e3. Perhaps here we can try to prepare this sacrifice. So very tricky position, and in over the board, very difficult to defend here. So g6 was played in the game. Now let's look at this from the white side. That's much nicer, of course. My opponent correctly played here bishop g5. Very nice move. Please notice that white is, theoretically speaking, material down, but he's very interested in swapping the defender on e7. In this way, his rook will join the attack at the black king. So if bishop takes, queen takes, I think this is just lost because the queen is coming to h6 next move. In the game, I took on d6. He took back. Now, as you can see, once the pawn leaves this diagonal, we even have mating ideas such as queen c3, queen g7. I played here rook f7. And in this position, let's see what happened here. Rook takes, queen takes. White has many ways to win here, but he chose the nicest one. So just anyone, please send to the chat, which do you think is the nicest way to win here with white? Aha, Brian, you can share your discovery with everybody. Okay, Brian, please let us know.
I would play queen f3 here. Basically attacks a8 and f7. As if he wants to trade, then we have d7.
Exactly.
You take and you can block d7, d8.
Yeah, we cannot prevent
and
d7.
Rook f8, I think queen takes f7, rook takes f7, bishop e7. Take
that's a nice piece of tactics. Bishop e7. And we're ready to go d7 next move. So yeah, I'm sure everybody has seen this pattern before. Pawn and bishop, somehow they can cooperate very well. In the game, I played Brian queen e8. The nicest way to finish off the game? The prettiest way to win the game? Aradia found this one. Only Aradia, no one else. Yeah, you're right, Aradia. Yeah, okay. Alex says d7. Yeah, that's okay. Zoe says queen takes a8. Yeah, this is, I think, the nicest way to win. So, painful defeat for black, for me. But, you learn more from your losses than from your victories. And I learned a lot from this game. I learned definitely a lot about the logics of the passed pawn. I had a very good knight here. And by means of this nice sacrifice, rook takes d4, well, maybe it's not even a sacrifice, white managed to get the upper hand here. And even if the engine will say that it's equal here, it's very difficult for a human to handle these positions with the black pieces. But please notice the idea of my opponent here, that later on, he's going for an attack. He noticed that it was not so easy to push the pawn. So just like in the previous example, he's looking for an attack. g6, terrible mistake, but I could notice here that several of you guys also chose this move. Unfortunately, it's a losing mistake. It weakens the king actually much more than h6 does. Let's continue. Let's switch subject. 2 minutes. Send me white's best move, please. White's best move and associated idea. Yeah, this one was very easy. Okay, time's up. As you can see, white already has a passed pawn here. But black is currently controlling this pawn. He's probably preparing to play here a move like knight e5, perhaps with the other knight. Maybe in some later occasion, he will be thinking of bishop f8 in order to take that pawn. However, it's white's turn, and there is a very strong option for white. Zoe has found this move, so please, Zoe, share with us what would you play with white?
I want to play knight c6 with the idea of maneuvering to e5. And if b takes c6, then I can just take back, and my connected passers will be really strong. Queen e8, then maybe knight b5.
Queen e8, knight b5. Aha, nice. And I noticed something here, Zoe, that you're not interested in playing d7, right? Oh, sorry. Let's listen to you again. Not a good idea to play d7, right?
Yeah, black can at least play knight takes d7.
Exactly. Just take on d7. That would be bad business for white. I mean, now black gets rid of those pawns. So your move is much stronger, knight b5. This looks horrible for black. Knight coming to c7. And also, of course, white can choose the moment for playing c7 or d7. Let's see what happened in the game. After knight c6, yeah, just like Zoe is saying, if black doesn't take on c6, then the knight inevitably will come to e5, and this will be very nasty for black. The queen must go. I don't even know what to put the queen, because if I go to c8, also rook c1 is coming up. And if I go to d8, I guess white could perhaps just take that pawn on b7. Yeah, anything. So knight c6, fantastic move played by white here. B takes c6, b takes 6. White is currently a piece down, but monster pawns on d6 and c6. Queen c8 was played in the game. There are many ways that you can continue here. The only move which you shouldn't play, of course, is d7. Don't do that, please. This pawn is worth much more. It has much more potential. In the game, they played rook ac1. That move can't be bad, right? It can't be bad. Also, it was interesting to play here bishop g5. And I guess we might be about to get back material very soon. Anyway, what white played in the game was very clean. Rook ac1, the last piece joins the action. Knight ft5, knight takes. And here they took with a pawn. And another nice move by white. Another nice move by white here. Again, we could look at advancing this pawn or the other pawn. Well, this pawn shouldn't advance. We already talked about this. This is too early to advance the pawn. Black would have chances of survival. If we advance the other pawn, I guess it cannot be bad, but, well, somehow we would have to later on unblock this pawn. But there is a much nicer move here. Austin found this move. Aha, you're right, Austin. Rook takes d5. Why not? These pawns are now, I think, each one of them is worth much more than 1 point. So we're not really sacrificing here. If knight takes d5, queen takes d5, how on earth is black supposed to defend in this position? How he cannot even move here almost. Let's say queen e6, we can even swap and play c7. As you can see, black is going to give back material very soon in this position. It's just resignable for black here. So in the game, they played bishop takes b2. And now, finally, white is ready to play d7 because the pawn has sufficient protection here. Queen a6, rook c2, bishop f6. And after c7, black called it a day. As you can see here, he's not in time to take on d7 because then the rook on a8 drops off, right? And I don't know what else to play here. If knight takes d5, I guess white could just take on. Should I just take on d5? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this looks very nice for white. Not easy at all for black to defend here. So very simple example on the topic of connected passed pawns. Connected passed pawns, they can be even stronger than a rook in the endgame. And also in the middle game, we can come across this important idea of creating a pair of connected passed pawns. The next example is about exactly the same topic. This was a game played very recently, a very fascinating battle from the young Dutch star Van Forest against my compatriot Niels Grandelius. So I will just give you 1 minute here because we're short of time. 1 minute, send me white's best move, please. Okay, time's up. Everybody found this one. That's great news. It seems you have understood very well the subject of today. Alexander Wang was one of the fastest ones. So, Alex, please share with us. What to play with white?
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
I would play knight b5 because if he has pawn take, then he get a pawn take, and you really have really strong pawns.
Aha, you're right.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything else, right? My rook has no squares.
So
Aha.
he probably will take with the bishop. I don't.
Yeah, you're right. That's how the game went. You're completely right. He took, black took in the game on b5. There is no other choice really. Any other move would just let these pawns, like e5 would just let these pawns continue their advance. Look how well placed the white rooks are. So this is unplayable. Yeah, in the game he took, and I will ask you for one more move here, Alex. Queen takes b5, knight e7. And what do you think white played here? Did he push the pawn, or do you think there is an even stronger move for white, Alex?
I feel like it's a stronger move, but I don't know what it is yet.
I can't hear you clearly, Alex.
You can hear me. I feel like this is like a stronger move, but I haven't figured it out yet.
Oh, okay, no problem. I can tell you that some of your fellow students here have found this move. Like Arnav found, for example, the move. Sometimes, bishop and pawn can make a very good team, right? Yeah, now everybody is writing to me here. Alexander Ratten, Austin Tang, Sarvagna.
Bishop e7.
Exactly, you're right, Alexander. Excellent choice. Bishop e7. That's what white played in the game. In this way, he gets ready to play a6, and also the rook is now in a very bad place. So, yeah, okay, thanks, Alex. Great work. That's how the game went. Queen d8, a6, and later on, white went on to win this game. It's very difficult for black to defend here. As you can see, white is a pawn down, but he has a fantastic passed pawn. Bishop f6, bishop a5, and here white even gave up the exchange. But it's impossible for black to liberate himself here. He tried in the game, but it was very difficult. As you can see, also, this pawn has become weak after d5. White played bishop d6, and he was not even interested in taking the rook on f8, as you can see. He played here simply rook c1, and it was nightmare for black, this position with the rook coming to c7. So, yeah, this game was played recently. Arnav said that he saw this game live. Yeah, I also saw it live. And to be honest, when I saw this position live, I couldn't figure out what white should play. He was a pawn down here, and I said maybe he's going to play rook b6, I thought. But then black could play rook c7, and it seems to me that black is more or less okay here. But fantastic move, knight b5. That's the difficult thing about chess. Once you see this move, it's very easy to understand it, but it's not so easy to find it. I mean, unless you're here in this class, of course, because we're already talking about this subject. So, fantastic move, knight b5. Black cannot really reject the sacrifice because his rook is sort of a good square, and also the pawn on d6 is hanging. After a takes b5, c takes b5, these pawns were just fantastic. Okay, let's continue. Now I have a more difficult example for you. This one is tougher. So I will give you two choices here. You're playing with the black pieces. Let me know, should black play rook a e8, or should he play bishop e8? Let me tell you that one of these moves is okay, and the other move is losing. For this little task, I will give you 2 minutes. Please choose between bishop e8 and rook a e8. Time's up, and I don't get a single correct answer. Maybe we should check with Greg Shahade. Greg might find this one. He's an expert in solving these quizzes. I will give you a few hints, guys. Look, these are two very strong grandmasters. We're talking 2650, over 2650. Strong Indian grandmaster Sasi Kiran with white, and Polish grandmaster Krasenkov with black. Black is more or less okay in this position. It's double-edged, of course. White has some attacking chances. Alexander Ratten is explaining that bishop c2 might be in the air. I definitely agree. But still, black's position is holdable here. But in the game, the grandmaster made a very bad choice. And I thought somebody would ask themselves, what does this have to do with passed pawns? There isn't a single passed pawn on the board. What on earth does this have? What's the connection with our subject? There is a connection with our subject. Let me refresh your memory. Let's go back to the previous one. What happened here? Well, white sacrificed the whole piece, creating these fantastic passed pawns on a5 and b5. Okay, what happened in the previous one? Same pattern, knight c6, and again, great duo of passed pawns. Okay, very easy to understand this logic. However, in this case, the idea of creating connected passed pawns, it cannot be realized without some help from our opponent. So let me say that one of these two moves that we're discussing, rook a8 and bishop e8, actually lets white set up those connected passed pawns. Okay, Sanjana is saying something very clever. She's saying here that rook e8 is better because it's better to give up the pawn on a5 than the pawn on e5. That's correctly understanding the position, because here we're protecting the pawn on e5. If white takes on a5, we can play something like knight e5. It becomes a very messy position, but let me tell you that black is probably okay here. It would be a good news for black to swap that light square bishop. Something like this. Yeah, black would be 2 pawns down, but look at his position. Fantastic position. So rook a8 is the good move. So now everybody understands that the bad move is bishop e8. Why? Why is bishop e8 the bad move? What do you think the strong Indian grandmaster played here? Now let's flip. Anyone with a little imagination? What did white do about this threat? Yeah, you could play. Sarvagna says f4. Yeah, that's an interesting move. Probably black should take on the pawn on d4, because you will see what happened in the game, and you will understand why I'm saying that. Yeah, Greg Shahid found it. That's good news. Please, Greg, share with us. I don't have to unmute you, right? Oh, Greg is in the gym. Yeah, impossible. Then let's pick someone else. So we have one correct answer. Greg found it. Anyone else? Why was bishop e8 such a bad move? What did white play here? Oh, Greg, you just wrote to everybody. Okay. So it's just a matter of reading. Yeah. So Greg found this one. White in the game sacrificed the queen, because he noticed that after bishop g6, e takes c6. He will very soon have 2 passed pawns. And not only that, he will also have attacking chances thanks to his great bishop pair. So that's how the game went. Just for the record here, bishop e8, I think Alexander Ratten was analyzing the move bishop c2, right? We were talking about this variation. And yeah, this looks interesting for white. There is some idea with exploiting the long diagonal, but I don't know. Maybe I can survive here. Yeah, that was my conclusion, that perhaps I can survive. Perhaps I can play king g8 next move in the worst case. Let's see the game. Bishop e8, white sacks the queen here. And of course, we shouldn't take on e4. It's better to play king a1 first, because the black queen must move anyway, right? Black had to move the queen, and f takes e4. As you can see, in terms of material, black is better. But look at white's activity here. It's not a surprise that Sasikiran sacked the queen, because he understood this position. If black takes on e4, white will have a very strong move here, knight g3, with the knight coming to either f5 or to h5. This looks really bad for black. In the game, black tried a4 instead, trying to create some counterplay. And after bishop a2, he played rook f3. Again, queen takes e4, knight g3 would be very complex for black. Knight f5 or knight h5 coming up next move. I don't think he can defend here, really. Let's say queen f3, knight f5. Black could perhaps make a counter sacrifice, but still, after, let's say, queen takes f5, as you can see here, white has a lot of activity. Only one idea would be to play rook g1, targeting the pawn on on g7. Or maybe we can even play this move first, the intermediate move. Play this one first, try to get the queen away from this diagonal, and then we could play, if you play, let's say, queen e4, we can play here. Oh, sorry, wrong rook. Now we can play rook hg1, targeting the pawn on. Yeah, this is unplayable, right? Rook g8, and I guess just rook takes g7. So unplayable. In the game, black played rook f3. The idea is easy to understand. Black would like to counter sacrifice. Oh, bishop takes g7, says Nathaniel. Yeah, you're right. That was also a possibility for white. Okay, rook f3 was played in the game. And here, white simply continued with his plan. Just like in the previous examples, no reason to get distracted here. We should just push those pawns forward. So white play here e5. Question, what would have happened then if black had taken on c3 and on e5? Anyone? Yeah, not so difficult, right? Yeah, Austin says we can play d7. Yeah, definitely. We can play d7. And if rook d8, we can simply play exactly rook h1. Aha. Alexander, Zoe are saying the same idea. And I don't think black can survive here, really. Yeah, no way he can prevent. Yeah, he would have to play queen b8 then. And I think here we have a little tactical trick, don't you think? Or maybe it's not enough. Oh, I was thinking of this one. Yeah, Austin says bishop f7, exactly. But I don't know, Austin, if I take here, you will win this endgame, or it's not completely clear? I mean, like this. I think it's not completely clear, right? The rook is strong in such endgames with the open center. So maybe we can switch the move order. Instead of playing d7 at once, we could play here. I mean, if we check carefully, the queen went to b8, right? So maybe we can start with rook ha1. This way, the queen cannot go to the 8th rank anymore. And wherever the queen goes here, we could just play rook e7. And d7 coming up, or maybe even rook e1. So I think this is completely lost for black. So e5, black played knight e5. Trying to, yeah, make use of that knight, block the pawn, at least for a short while. White simply took. Still, you could say that black is material up, but the position is hopeless here. Queen f7 was played in the game. So the next move is for you. What should white play here? What's the time? Yeah, 1 minute. Send me white's best move here, please. Nothing flashy, nothing special. Just a very logical move. Okay, Alexander, you found it. It's badly written, but you have the right move. So, Alexander Rattan, please share with us, what should white play?
Yeah, so first I thought you should play rook hd1, but I think you should play rook 5.
Because here, what would black play here, Alex?
I'm pretty sure you can go rook f1.
Exactly, rook f1, and we can see here, black is still creating some confusion. If d7, perhaps he can take on d5, right? And he will still have some counterplay. So once we have the passed pawns like this, very strong passed pawns, we shouldn't get distracted. So what was your move again? Sorry, Alex?
Rook from the 5th rank to d1.
Exactly, rook dd1, I think we can call this move. Rook dd1, that's the right move, because in this way, we don't allow black to create any kind of counterplay. No rook f1 anymore. And now the pawns are ready to move forward. Okay, Alex, look, here they played queen c4. What would you play with white now? Now you have to make a good choice. This is more complex than we might think here. You have 2 candidate moves. One of them white might not win, and the other one will win. So it's almost like tossing a coin here. So which move do you like most, Alex, for white? Very tough question.
d7, I think.
d7 is what I thought as well. Let's check this. d7, black must play now rook d8. I guess you were considering to play here bishop a5?
Yeah.
So when I looked at this, my first impression was that black should be able to make a draw here. I said, I can take on e2, And if white takes on d8, now it's extremely complex, this position, but please notice that what black will try to do here is to force a perpetual. So I thought about rook b3, threatening to give mate in 1. White must play now rook b1, and black could take on e5, creating the threat of rook takes a3. So it wouldn't make sense to move the king, because in that case, black could just play queen d5, right? So there is actually a move for white here. White could play the funny move so that we can see. Sorry?
Bishop e7.
Exactly. You can play bishop e7. Exactly. You found the idea. Aha. And after queen takes e7? Now I'm threatening to give mate, right?
Yeah.
So you would have to play rook bd1.
Yeah, just
correct.
rook b1 probably.
But then I can take on a3. And this is going to be a draw, because the white king cannot escape the checks. However, if we go back here, this is important because now we can notice the strength of the passed pawn. So, Sarvagna says, how about queen e5 at the start? Yeah, let's see. Let's see again. But just for the record here, after bishop a5, queen takes e2. As we just saw here, after bishop takes d8, rook b3, black is actually saving a draw. But there is a much stronger move here for white. I'm sure you can find it, Alex. You're not forced to take straight away on d8. You can play an intermediate move first here. So which move might that be? I mean, taking into account that black would like to take the pawn on e5, what could we play first?
Yeah, I was going to say rook he1 to
exactly. Now we can play rook he1. And in this way, we're preventing black's idea. Black would play queen c2, so that if bishop takes d8, he could take on a3, and it would again be a draw here. However, you have a much stronger move here, right?
Rook d2.
Sorry?
Rook d2, maybe.
Rook d2, maybe, yeah. Maybe that's also possible. I don't have a clue here, really. That looks completely winning. Yeah. Why not? Unless I can give up the exchange, though. I don't know if this is possible. I mean, I'm not giving up the exchange. I'm giving up the queen or whatever. What would happen here? Maybe I'm still alive. I think I'm still alive here, no? Because if e6, I'm not going to take your bishop. I would just play rook e7. And, well, white should be better with this pawn. But I think we should look for something even better here at this moment. So apart from rook d2, notice that black is not threatening to take at this point because your bishop is covering c3. So which other move comes to mind?
e6.
Exactly, e6, and it's over. It's over. The tremendous strength of these passed pawns. Black can just resign here because he has no way to. Let's say he plays rook b3. Now you can just play your move. I think your move should be fine here. Rook d2, and e7 next move. And yeah, why not rook c1? Says Austin. When is rook c1? Here. Oh yeah, you're right. Rook c1 is also possible. Yeah, you're completely right. I don't know why I like e6 more, but yeah, you're completely right. This is of course working as well, because you will give mate then. So what's the conclusion? Well, the conclusion is that after d7, which was the move that Alex said, rook d8, bishop a5, it appears as if black is lost here, but he's not lost. Did you notice how important the bishop was to in order to cover the square on c3? Anybody can guess what black should play here? Feel free to send to the chat. What should black play here? Which move might change the course of the game? Okay, Sarvagna found this one. Okay, Sarvagna, please share with us what have you noticed here?
I could play b6 and distract c3.
And I take, please continue.
I wasn't.
Now just try to make that perpetual work.
So I guess bishop, rook a3.
Already? I think it's too early though, because you don't have checks here, do you? Or well, I'm not completely sure. What would you play now? Queen takes. Yeah, you can take on e2, but now I will not take on. No, I think this actually might win for white. Or do you think? Maybe it's a perpetual though. I don't have anywhere to hide with the king. That's funny. But okay, I'm not forced to take, definitely. I could play something else here. Let's say rook h e1? Or what do you think? Is this okay for black?
Probably not. I don't think I can get a draw.
It looks kind of scary, but okay. You never know in such positions. Maybe queen f3 and still you have this threat. Maybe I should play something else here. But I think there is a simpler path for black here. Don't sack the rook. Instead, try to prepare an attack at this pawn on b2.
Maybe like just queen takes e2 and then rook b3.
Yeah, that's also an interesting possibility. But I think even rook b3. But then I could play perhaps. It looks like something that we looked at very recently. And now I must play rook b1, and you can take on e5, right?
Yeah.
So it seems that we're back in the same variation. It appears that black is able to draw here. So yeah, maybe you're right. I cannot see what white should play here then after queen takes e2. But maybe again I can use my move. Didn't we look at this? Or I think I'm already getting confused by all these tactics. Didn't we look at this very recently? I think so. So I think there is a better move order for you here. You could actually force me to take on d8 here. So just switch the move order and you will make it.
Rook b3?
Exactly. We should start with rook b3 because now the bishop is hanging. So white should take on d8. And now please continue, Sarvang. Yeah, just go for the mate, okay?
Wait, could I take on b2?
Wow, that's another interesting option. Yeah, maybe. Oh, this gets even more complex. I don't know. Maybe you can. I only know that I have to take here. But also maybe I can, run forwards with my king now. And my feeling is that it might be too much material here for well, who knows? But I think there is something much simpler here. I think we already saw this, in fact. So just go for the mate. Yeah, some people are already sending me the right move here. Like Austin, Nathaniel. Yeah, let's try to threaten mate and at the same time win material.
Queen
How can we achieve that?
Queen takes e2.
Sure, we can just take on e2, and now I must play rook b1, and we already saw this. White is extremely close to winning. However, you're just in time to fix a draw here. Don't take on a3. Prepare that keep that for next move.
Queen takes e5.
Exactly. Queen takes e5, and now it's like we saw here. This is going to be a draw after bishop e7. You can just take, and here, of course, black should not play queen d8 here due to rook 1. You should just take. Yeah, just like Austin says, we should just take here. So this is the way to make a draw here. White must take, else there is check on e4, and then it's finally a draw here. So, okay, thanks, Sarvagna. Excellent work. This was a very complex example. Let's see what happened in the game. White didn't play d7. This was the most tempting move. I guess he somehow noticed this pattern with the sacrifice and so on. So if he didn't play d7, what do you think he played? What do you think White played here? Anyone? Which other move is there? Yeah, it's exactly. Alexander found this one. e6. Yuvrai also found it. That's what he played in the game. Yeah, somehow this is more powerful. Now, if taking on e6, White is ready to go knight e4, and then it's just winning, take, and play d7, and rook d1, and rook e1, and so on. So in the game, after the very strong move e6, black took on e2 instead. Yeah, also notice that if black tries this counter sacrifice, again, we have the strength of the passed pawn and the vulnerable black king. So White would just play here rook hc1. And after queen f7, what would White play here? Anyone? White to play and win? Basic tactics. The passed pawn allows a lot of tactical ideas. Alexander found this one in very short time. Exactly. Rook e8 check, and after rook takes e8, of course, white doesn't take the rook. He just queens and ends up with an extra piece. So back to the game. After e6, fantastic move e6. The knight was hanging, but it doesn't matter. Black took the knight. Now material is clearly in black's favor, but please notice the strength of those pawns. I think we can push either pawn here, but this one certainly looks more forcing because we're threatening to play d8 with check. Rook d8 wouldn't make sense here. White would just play rook e1, and no way he can prevent e7, right? In the game, they played rook d3. And we have arrived at the last move in the game. So what did white play here? Anyone? The magic of the passed pawns. e7, says you're right. That cannot be right. Rook takes d1, and you ruined the whole position. Yeah, Alexander found this one. Yeah, rook d e1. Exactly. Please notice that once you have the passed pawns, just support them. Don't make things too complex. This is the right move. Black resigned because no matter what he plays here, I don't know, where can the queen go to c2? We already know white's next move, right? Exactly. We should just play e7, and e8 is coming up. Black is one tempo short of this perpetual idea. It's not possible anymore. So extremely complex example. What we have seen here is that the move played by the grandmaster, bishop e8, which looked like a very clever move in order to regroup the bishop to this nice diagonal, it's actually a huge mistake. And Sasikiran didn't forgive black for this mistake. He bravely took on e5, sacking the queen in order to create this fantastic passed pawns. I mean, he could end up with only one passed pawn, but in that case, as we saw here, knight g3, preparing knight f5 or knight h5 would be very strong. Again, we have the same idea of combining an attack with an advance of a passed pawn. In the game, black didn't take that pawn. He played a4 and then looked for counterplay with rook f3. But here, white simply continued with the march of his passed pawns. And yeah, black did his best to create some counterplay here, trying to cook up some perpetual. But white didn't get distracted. Although I must admit that I don't think I would have found this myself over the game, over the board. I think I would have played e7 here. But yeah, Sasikiran is, great player. He found e6 and it was game over here. So that's about connected passed pawns. I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson and see you next time. Thanks, everyone.